Okay, so we are about to listen to a podcast. I'm just repeating this for just a minute. Is about the lynching of Michael Donald, the last lynching known in Alabama. This is an interview by an NPR reporter with Ted Koppel, the guy who was in charge of the documentary about this. So we're going to listen to it. I'm going to stop it occasionally to make sure that you are kind of getting the details, and then we will talk about it a little bit.
20th centuries, young men and some women who were accused of crimes or simply standing up for themselves became the targets of angry white mobs and individuals. In many cases, victims were murdered simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's the story of a shockingly recent lynching. In 1981, in Mobile, Alabama, a 19-year-old named Michael Donald was killed by two members of the local Ku Klux Klan who wanted to intimidate the local Black community. That case...
Everybody know what the Ku Klux Klan is? Okay, good.
The documentary, The Last Lynching, which premieres tonight on the Discovery Channel at 10 p.m. The film is the latest project of veteran journalist Ted Koppel, who's with...
Yes. So the KKK stands for the Ku Klux Klan, and they are a group of people who are united by their racist beliefs. That's the best way I could put it.
He's with us now to talk about it.
They have an outfit that they wear that hides their identity. Absolutely.
He's with us now to talk about it. Welcome.
Thank you.
And just a warning before we begin our conversation, this film involves some issues that to describe.
But I wouldn't let any child in the
early
1870s into the 1920s is that one of the most popular souvenirs of lynchings were these postcards. People took photographs of the lynch victims, of the crowds who gathered in large numbers, sometimes with their picnic lunches in hand and with kids. It was great entertainment, and these postcards became collector's items in a sense, and almost 100 years later, they are still shocking to see.
Anybody who's followed your work knows that you've had a long interest in covering race in this country. You actually covered the Selma March, which was a pivotal event in the civil rights history. But what made you take this story on?
All right,
He was just a little girl. Or maybe it wasn't even his mother. Maybe it was his mother remembering his grandmother telling that. But the point was, here we are living at a time when there are still people among us who either themselves have memories or have memories of being told by very close relatives of lynchings that took place. And he made the point, all of this is happening at a time when we are about to see the Democratic Party nominate an African American as its presidential candidate.
So this is a little bit old.
Can you do something with that? Yeah, we thought there might be a story there.
Yeah, might be a story there. And the story that you focused on was the last recorded lynching that I think is acknowledged as a lynching, which happened in 1981. Why was Michael Donald killed?
He was killed because, as you put it a moment ago, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. There had actually been a trial going on in Mobile, Alabama, a trial of a Black man who was accused of having killed a white cop. And it was, forgive the term, but it's the only appropriate term, it was a hung jury. And because the jury was predominantly Black, the local Klan took umbrage at this and sent a couple of its young men out and said, go find yourself a substitute and lynch him, kill him. And
Okay, so really quickly, I want to make sure you know, here's the backdrop. A trial was going on in Mobile, and it was a trial for a Black man who was accused of killing a white cop or a white police officer. Okay, does anybody know what a hung jury is? What's a hung jury? No. Anybody else know what a hung jury is? So here's the way criminal cases work that are trial by jury. You have a group of men and women who sit in the jury box while the case is going on. They hear all the evidence, right? And usually the lawyers have a part in picking that jury. So it says the jury were mostly Black, but after the case is over, all the evidence has been presented, the defense rests, and then the jury goes into their room and they do what we call deliberate. So they talk about, do they think this person is guilty or do they think this person is innocent? they like review the evidence that was presented in court, and then they vote, okay? So in order for somebody to be convicted as guilty, the jury has to have a majority. So and in some cases, it's usually in a murder trial, it has to be unanimous. And so if there is not a majority, then it is called a hung jury. That is a legal term that means when the jury voted, there was not a majority. And what that means is the person is not convicted as guilty. So what's happening in Mobile at this day and time is there's this high profile case going on. A black man is being tried for killing a white cop, and the jury is hung. So that means that the black man gets to go free. He is not convicted of committing the crime. And so that made the Ku Klux Klan angry because they're full of hate and anger and rage. And so what they decided to do is, since they didn't get this guy in court, they basically tell some of their members to go out and lynch a black man as a substitute. Okay? Does everybody understand what's happening? Okay? Yeah. Are you going to sleep if I do? Okay. All right. So. All right.
These two young men did. And one of them, who was 19 at the time, after he had done it, he turned state's evidence. The other young man was executed. But this other man spent 20 years in the Federal Witness Protection Program. You still don't see him on the air. He only agreed to do a phone conversation with me. But he talks about how it happened and why it happened. And the man they found could have been anyone. And they rolled the window down and said, hey, can you tell us how to get to such and such a restaurant? And then they dragged him into the car, drove him out into the bayous and killed him. And then they brought the body back and hanged it then from a tree directly in front of the home of the head of the local United Klans of America. So it was a way of saying, let there be no doubt about who did this. It was the Klan who did this. And let there be no doubt about why it was done. It was done to intimidate.
Let's hold on for a minute, because I think I'd like,
Sure.
Okay. So let's talk for just a minute. Yes.
So I thought they just got him and lynched him. So will they just got him and choked him to death, then brought him back to his home?
They first killed him, and then they went and they hung him from a tree in front of the head of the Ku Klux Klan guy's house. And so not only did they kill a young man, but they also were sending a message. They were trying to intimidate the black community. This is how hard, this is not that long ago. This is 1981. I was alive. But here's kind of some of the details. There are two men that committed the murder. One of them is a guy that we're going to find out is named Tiger Knowles. He was 19 at the time he committed the murder.
He's still alive?
He is still alive. The other guy was executed. He got the death penalty. But the reason why Tiger Knowles didn't, it said because he turned state's evidence. Anybody know what that means? He agreed to cooperate with the police. So he acted as an informant. He told them who had put him up to it, what they had said to do.
Is he in prison?
So he spent 20 years in prison, and then he went into what we call the Federal Witness Protection Program. Anybody know what the Federal Witness Protection Program is?
Basically a program so where the FBI watching you.
So if you are an informant and doing so puts you in danger, there is a federal program called the Federal Witness Protection Program, and they basically will hide you from your enemies. They give you a new name, a new identity, a new place to live. So you basically start over in life. And so this guy, think about it, he snitched on the KKK. The KKK is so full of hate that they wanted to kill innocent people. Imagine how they felt about Tiger Knowles when he snitched on him. So
He's a white man?
he is a white man.
Is that his?
Because he's a member of the KKK. Keep being a KKK and not being white.
That's his original. Right?
Well, this is his nickname. And Ted Koppel's going to talk about that in just a minute.
Wait, wasn't there? I thought there was black people in the KKK, but you never knew because you had a mask on.
No. Okay. All right. Is everybody with me? Everybody following where we are? Y'all got it? Okay. All right, I'm about to hit play again. Listen again. Okay, I am going to tell you this. They're about to interview him, and he actually says something that I just cannot stand. I'm not gonna play it, okay? No, I'm not gonna play it. But you will get to hear his voice, but you're not gonna get to hear this first thing because he says a word I just cannot stand. So
Is there a gun barge?
That you did not meet with, but you were actually able to speak with one of the people who killed Michael Donald. And I think we should hear a clip of his voice, hear it disguised when he talked to you. Why is it that, he did eventually turn state's evidence, but it took 3 years before anybody was brought to trial? Why did it take so long?
The police initially came to the sort of wonderful conclusion that this had to be a drug-related crime. Why they would think that, I can't imagine. Michael Donald was hanged in a fashion that was meant to be reminiscent of the old lynching days. He was hanged in front of the home of the
Michael-
leader of the United Klans of America. You would think that they would.
So the police tried to make it off like maybe Michael Donald, there was some drugs going on. And we saw that in chapter 2 of Just Mercy. Remember, they thought that Brian Stevenson, remember the neighbor wanted Brian Stevenson to be interviewed by the police because she had some things go missing. Like they just automatically assumed he was guilty. Same thing about Michael Donald. And that's what Ted Koppel is saying. They should not have even thought that, but it took 3 whole years between Michael's death and for there to be some sort of criminal case against. 1984 before there was even a trial. I don't know how long the trial took place. All right.
There would be a clue there or two that they might have gotten. But it wasn't until Jesse Jackson came to town and led some demonstrations in Mobile that people began looking into this. And then indeed, this young man, whose name, he's still going by the same name. This is one of the curious things. His name is, at least his nickname was Tiger Knowles. And Tiger Knowles turned state's evidence and himself then went to prison for 20 years.
He was clearly not a popular man once he decided to turn in his colleague who was executed for the crime. I hope it's not giving too much away, though, to say that the story did not end there. That it was not only a criminal trial, there was also a civil case.
And the civil case, in fact, had far more of an impact.
All right. Do y'all know the difference between a criminal case and a civil case? Well, no. So criminal case is where you are actually being charged for a crime, right? So you're either innocent or guilty. A civil case involves money. So think civil in the legal sense is another word for money. So you can actually, like, I don't know if y'all remember the trial of O.J. Simpson or y'all know anything about the trial. He was charged for the murder of Ron Goldman and Nicole Kidman, and he was found innocent. But then the families of those 2 victims brought a civil suit against him. Because remember, you can only be charged once for a crime. So they brought a second one where they sought damages, money damages, okay? So here's what Ted Koppel is saying. They did bring a criminal trial against these 2 guys. One of them was executed. The other went to jail for 20 years. He got less time. He did not get the death penalty because he cooperated with the state and gave them evidence, all right? So that was the criminal trial. But then Jesse Jackson and the Southern Poverty Law Center convinced Michael Donald's mom to press a civil case. And that meant that they were going to sue for damages. Anytime you hear the word sue, that's a civil case, okay? So you can actually sue somebody for money. You caused me pain. You took something that belonged to me. So I'm going to get it back in money, right? So
if someone, everybody said everything personal, you could sue criminals personally.
So they could be charged criminally, but then I could press a civil case and say, you caused me emotional anguish, or my car's never been the same, so you owe me $40,000, right? Now, whether or not I would win, I mean, that would have to go to court as well, right? Somebody over here have a question? Yes. They did. They did. I don't remember, but it was a lot of money. It's part of why OJ has had some financial issues because he lost the civil case. So he did it. Famous football player. He was charged but found not guilty of killing his ex-wife and his ex-wife's girlfriend. This was back in the 1990s, and there was a big high-speed chase where the police chased him. Anyway,
Oh, didn't they make a movie about that?
there is a
It was
movie
a
about it.
for 30
Yeah.
days.
It was during the NBA finals.
Okay, all right. All right, everybody pause, come back to me, look, because the rest of this is actually pretty cool. There's some justice.
Nationally and certainly locally, regionally, than the criminal case did. Morris Dees at the
Southern Poverty Law Center.
Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah, this
Thank
is,
you.
it's
Morris Dees, who has a long and distinguished record of fighting civil rights cases, fighting for civil rights, decided that he would get Michael's mother, in other words, the victim's mother, to sue for civil damages. And indeed, they brought a civil lawsuit against the United Klans of America and won, and in effect caused the bankruptcy of the Klan. Now, that didn't mean the end of racism. It hasn't even meant the end of the Klan, but it sure dealt the Klan a major body blow and cost them every nickel that they had at that point.
There was another, I think, for some people, I would think maybe it's an emotional body blow. Very few whites have ever been held to account through the criminal justice system for murdering Black people in this fashion. Not only that, but that James Tiger Knowles apologized to Michael's mother for what he did. I want to play a short clip of that.
I asked Mrs. Donald to forgive me for what I had done. And I begged her to forgive me because I couldn't bring him back. And she did. She forgave me in front of everyone.
Was that surprising to you?
That she forgave him?
Just the whole thing. I mean, the fact that a person who could do something so horrendous, because I think we need to point out that this man was tortured before he was killed. I mean, he was beaten with a tree limb, his throat was cut, his body was dry. I mean, this was not, something
No,
simple. So what do you make of all that?
Honestly, Michelle, I don't know, because I don't really know James Tiger Knowles. We have talked a few times on the phone. I must tell you, I am convinced that he has undergone a complete metamorphosis, and that he did years ago. This is not something recent. It was of no value to him whatsoever to come on this program, even just by telephone. He's taking a considerable risk. He has a new life now. He has a job. He just got out of prison a short while ago. He would be hugely embarrassed he now says he has African-American friends and he wouldn't want them to know. The curious thing is he hasn't changed his name. I never really understood that. But I do take him at his word. And clearly so did Michael's mother. Because she said to him, the actual words she used were, "I've already forgiven you." And as Morris Dees describes that moment, he says there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Even the judge had to brush away some tears. It was just an extraordinary moment, and she appears to have been a truly extraordinary woman.
Okay, so tell me about the justice that happened for Michael Donald. It will never, ever bring him back. But was there some justice? Yeah. What was the justice?
The justice was he had a little bit of relief because he went to jail for 20 years. He came back and he got forgiveness from Michael's mom, which I don't think anybody else could do.
Right.
It takes some guts to do that.
She's an extraordinary woman. Okay, so what justice though did Michael Donald's mom get? What did she get, Dallas?
She got all the money.
She got a lot of money. That's right. Doesn't bring him back, but she at least got money, and that at least was a blow to the Ku Klux Klan. Not only did she get a lot of money, but she also did get an apology, right? I don't know. We could look that up. Okay, so here's what I'm going to give you 5 minutes to respond in your journal. But before we do that, I really just want to pray. Okay, I want to just take a minute to pray for our nation. And just for the things that have happened in our country and our history. Lord, we just come before you and we just confess that as a country, we have been guilty of the sin of racism. Lord, I thank you for Black and brown brothers and sisters, and I pray, Father, for their protection. I pray for their healing. Father, I pray for our nation. I pray that those who have racism in their hearts, Father, that their hearts would be convicted, that they would confess that sin, and they would go to their Black and their brown brothers and sisters and ask for forgiveness. I pray, Father, that our nation would be healed of this great sin. And Father, I pray that we would be men and women that would stand shoulder to shoulder. That we know that in heaven, when we get there, there will be people of all races and of all nationalities gathered around your table. And so, Father, I ask that just even now, we would make earth look more like heaven in the way that we interact and love one another, and the way we value one another, and the way we value each other's differences. Forgive us when we hold a racist thought. Change us so that we might look more like you. You who created both Black, brown, and white. Father, make us one. Make us a body that puts an end and works to end racism of any kind in our country. Yes, all these things. All right, I'm gonna give you a few minutes. If you will respond, you can write whatever you want in your journal, as long as it is 4 sentences. Great.
When did this go down? 1980.
1981.
Can I read?
I want to read it.
Okay, yes.
I just want to.
Spend just a few minutes writing, and then we'll read. And then we got to move on. Anything you want. Okay, so I have just given you this paper. When you get your paper back, you can earn up to 20 points on your writing. And your writing, your autobiographical narrative was a test grade. So here's what I mean by up to 20 points. Like if you made an 86 and you make 16 or 14 corrections, I'm going to give you 14 points. I'm not going to give you over 100, right? So so you can earn, if you make, for every correction you make, you will earn a point, up to 20 points. Does that make sense? And it will go on your writing grade. So let's say you made a 70 on your writing grade and you do the corrections, then you will end up with a 90 for that writing grade. Does that make sense? So that is potentially could raise your writing grade up 2 letters, right? So here's the way it's going to work. When I hand back to you your paper, you're going to look at it and you're going to take a red pen or some other color pen, and you are going to number in order the mistakes that you made. So you'll see my corrections and you're going to number it. I'm explaining first, just listen. And then on this piece of paper, you will next to incorrect, you will write the number that you are correcting. So like if you're correcting mistake number 3, you'll write 3. And then underneath it says correct, you will rewrite it correctly. Does that make sense? So, so you will look at your paper and you will correct the things that need to be corrected, up to 20 of them. I only gave you 16 on here, just because if you want to do more, you can just add another piece of paper to it. These corrections are going to be due on Friday. So you have tonight and tomorrow night to do these and turn them in on Friday. You will turn them back in with your paper. So we will staple this to your actual paper and you will turn it in. If you decide not to take me up on this opportunity, then you'll just turn your paper back in, okay? But before I hand you back your paper, I want you to take notes. This is going to go in your writing. And I want to explain, when you get your paper back, you're going to see some of this on your paper. And so what I want to do is explain first. So when you get your paper, you're like, what in the world does she mean, CS? Okay? So I'm going to walk you through just a few things. You know, just keep your trash and we'll throw it away at the end of class. Okay? All right. So the first thing I want you to do, on a piece of paper in your writing tab, I want you to write grading marks key with today's date. And the first thing I want you to write is CS. If you see CS written on your paper, it means that you have a comma splice. What is a comma splice? A comma splice is when you have a comma where it shouldn't be, okay? So I made my other class just pause and look at me. Everybody just stop writing for just a minute. Give me your eyeballs. This is the best rule about comma usage. Unless you know a rule or a reason for putting a comma, don't put one, okay? Everybody listen to me. I would rather you miss a comma where it needed to be than put one where it didn't need to be. There are very specific rules where you use comma, and you should know some of those, but we're gonna go over them after Thanksgiving. But I'm gonna say it again, if you don't know a rule of why a comma should be there, don't put one. Got it?
What about in front of and?
In front of and, well, that would be a rule that you know, right? Okay, so here's something else you may see. If you see 3 lines underneath a word or underneath a letter of a word, I just put X. Yours is not gonna have an X. It may just be any letter. I just used X. 3 lines means you have a capitalization error. And it could mean that you capitalized something that shouldn't be capitalized, or it could mean that you didn't capitalize something that should be capitalized. So make sure that you write this down. Okay? All right, now, run-on sentences. This is still a major problem in our writing. Who can tell me what a run-on sentence is? Yes.
Sentence that like can't really one line where she stopped like at some point, like just too much information in one sentence.
All right, so Teneri, you want to add to that? Yes. It is 2 independent clauses. Very good. So if you have one subject and one verb, that's a sentence. If you have one subject and one verb and then another subject and another verb, then you have created, if you don't punctuate it correctly, you have a run-on sentence. What are the ways we can punctuate a run-on sentence?
Period.
Comma
Semicolon.
plus a fanboys conjunction, right? So it doesn't have to just be and. It can be for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, right? So these are what you can do to join 2 independent clauses together. So you have to have a comma and a plus, one of these. The main mistake I see in your writing is you just keep going and you don't ever put a comma. That creates a wrong sentence. Bennett, what's the other way you can join 2 independent clauses together? A semicolon. Here's the other thing you could do. All right, you can put a semicolon. There are only 2 uses in the English language for semicolons. One is to join 2 independent clauses. The other is if you have items in a series and the items in those series are really, really long. So, so these are 2 ways you can actually create. If you use a semicolon, you don't need a fanboy. So, for example, let me give you an example. Yes. What if this was my sentence? What if it was, all right, I went to the store.
And both, equally.
It was closed. All right. If I wrote it like this, it's a run-on sentence, right? I have 2 subjects. What's my subject, Dre? Give me one of them. Nope. I is one subject. Mason, give me the other one. It. Nope. I have 2 subjects. Give me the first verb, Victoria. Right. So what's the first verb? Huh? Went. Very good. This is your first verb. What's the second verb? Lamar. Was. Very good. Okay. So ing have 2 independent clauses. So the way it's written now, it is a run-on. Even if I said I went to the store and it was closed, it is still a run-on. Why? What am I missing?
No.
What am I missing, Cole? Yes, and I have and. I'm missing a comma here. This is what I saw mostly in your writing, is you would join them together with a fanboys conjunction, but you wouldn't put the comma. Here's my other option. Huh? Yes, I did not have a single student that did not have a run-on in their writing.
Except for me.
No, even you. You'll see. You'll see RO run-on sentence. Okay. So here's my other option. If I put 2 independent clauses together, I can do a semicolon. If I do a semicolon, I don't have to have a fanboys, and I don't have to capitalize that either. Or my third option is I can just make 2 sentences. Hey y'all, if in doubt, just make 2 sentences. Like if you're worried this is a run-on sentence, just divide it up. Okay? All right. So here's the other thing. Here's the next. So these are what you may see. You may see CS, something underlined, run-on sentence, or you may see just a circle. If I have circled something on your paper, here's what it means. It means that there's something in that circle that is wrong. It could be a spelling error. It could be punctuation. It could be a contraction. Y'all remember we are not supposed to use contraction in formal writing. It could be a preposition at the end of a sentence. Y'all remember prepositions? We are not supposed to end sentences with prepositions. And here's the thing, if you are writing and you think, I don't know if this is a preposition or not, you can pull out your little handy dandy preposition card that looks like this, and you can say, oh, yeah, after, across, before, on, those are prepositions. I can't end a sentence with that, okay? All right. The last thing that you may see in your paper is VT, and that means verb tense. Sometimes you guys are telling me a story in the past and you would change your verb to present, okay? Remember, tense is like when that verb happened. So you have to be really careful that you don't change your verb tense, okay? Any questions? Okay, one last thing I want to talk about with you guys before I give you back your paper, okay? Everybody shake a leg, wake up. This is really important. I have given you an MLA checklist. And what I want to do right now is I want you to be able to see one more time the things that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for everything that MLA requires, but these are the things that I'm looking for, okay? I'm going to show you. All right, everybody get out your yellow MLA card. All right. All right. Here is my recommendation. And all you have to do is pay attention. You don't have to take any notes, just pay attention and absorb this information, all right? All right. So here is my document, okay? Everybody see that? Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Everybody know up here where it says layout. Can y'all see that? Layout. Everybody see here? This word layout. So when you are starting to write an essay, the first thing you need to do before you type anything on the paper is you need to go to layout. When you do, it switches your ribbon up there. I wish I could show this to you in larger. Whoop. Sorry, it just went, okay. Blank document. Okay, here we go. All right, when you go to layout, it pulls up to you all the, over here, everybody see where I am over here? This is called, this says margins. And if you click on it, the very last thing down here is custom margins. I know y'all can't see it very well, but when you click on that, it gives you this little box right here. And what you need to do for custom margins so that you can get 24 lines, this right here says top, this right here says left, this says bottom. It is the bottom margin you need to change to 0.8. And this is on your checklist. You need to do that, all right? And then after you do that, now you want to go right here where it says paragraph. Right there, and there's this little teeny tiny box right there. If you click on that, another little menu pops up and it gives you indents and spacing. Right here it says indentation, and you want to go to the right indentation and you want to make that 1 inch. So I'm changing that to 1 inch. If you do all this before you start your paper, your whole paper will be formatted. Then you want to go to spacing. Everybody, this says spacing right here. Hang on, I forgot I can do this. Can y'all see that better, even though it's like off the page?
Just the projector quality really bad.
I know, it's not a whole lot I can work with, is it? All right, so anyway, this is spacing. In spacing, there's a before and an after. It says before 0, it says after 8 point. You need to make after 0. Here's what it means. It means that when you finish that, what that means right there before and after It means that when you finish a paragraph and you start a new paragraph, it gives you 8 points between instead of 0. And so that takes up some of your space for your MLA formatting. So you need to go to spacing and make the before and the after 0. Everybody got that? All right, then you go over here to line and page breaks. If y'all can see that. This is line and page breaks, and up at the top, this right here, where my pointer is, says widow and orphan control. You want to turn that off. What happens when widow and orphan control is on? If you have like a line of 1 paragraph at the bottom of your page and widow and orphan control is on, if you hit enter, it drags that line from the previous page to the next one, and it gives you a huge margin, so it messes up your MLA. So you want to turn that off, okay? Then once you've done that, you can hit okay. So I've done my indentation. I have done my, oh no, I need to do line spacing. That's the last thing. Where it says line indents and spacing, I have to go back to that. And right here, it says line spacing. And if you look, the default is multiple. So I want to come to this drop-down menu and I want to go to double, okay? Once I've done all that, I can hit okay. And then the last thing that we need to do is we need to do our page numbers, okay? So to do page numbers, you go back to home and you go over to insert. And over here, it's gonna show you page number, which you guys can't see. Let me see. All right, so page number is right here. In this, there is header, footer, page number. You hit page number and it'll pop you up all kinds of options, right? So I want mine at the top of the page. I want it at top right. This one gives me top right. Or if you want, you can go to, we really want top right with last name, and mine for whatever reason does not have that option. So I'm just gonna go to top right here. But here's where some of you messed up. You need to say different first page. So when you set your page number up, you're going to go right here to different first page and put it in. And then it will make page number 2. All right. Do y'all feel like you understand what I'm talking about? Okay. Say that again.